What happens when trust is broken, and one partner strays from their vows? If you share my belief that true family values matter and that cheating is a betrayal of love, loyalty, and commitment, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin. A smile tugged at my lips as I watched my wife of 12 years, Avery, excitedly announce her plans for the evening. She was heading to a reunion with her college friends, something she had been looking forward to for weeks. Dressed in her favorite outfit, the one that always accentuated her timeless beauty, she radiated the same charm and warmth that had captured my heart all those years ago. Her happiness was infectious, and I found myself genuinely pleased for her. Over the years, we had built our relationship on a strong foundation of trust, one that I had never questioned. I had never felt the need to. Before leaving, she leaned in, her lips brushing against mine in a soft farewell kiss. "Don't stay up too late," she teased playfully, her eyes dancing with affection. I chuckled, watching her disappear through the door, feeling nothing but love for the woman who had stood by my side for over a decade. The evening unfolded as usual. I settled onto the couch with a chilled beer in hand, a movie playing in the background more as a distraction than for actual entertainment. Nights like this weren't uncommon. Avery often went out with her friends while I stayed behind, enjoying a quiet evening to myself. But as the hours slipped by, a strange feeling began to creep into my mind, an unease that I couldn't quite explain. It wasn't suspicion, not at first. Just an odd, nagging sensation, like an itch at the back of my mind. Avery was usually the type to post updates, an occasional picture, a check-in, a small anecdote about her night out. Tonight, however, there was nothing. The silence was unsettling. I told myself she was simply having too much fun to be on her phone, but as the clock continued ticking toward midnight, the unease settled deeper in my chest. By 1:30 a.m., my concern had turned into something heavier, something closer to fear. There had been no calls, no texts, no sign of her at all. This was not like Avery. My mind raced through rational explanations, but none of them felt right. Finally, unable to shake the growing suspicion, I did something I had never done before. I accessed our shared phone account. A line I had always respected suddenly seemed insignificant compared to the gnawing doubt consuming me. It took mere seconds for my world to shift. One name stood out among the rest: Daniel. I didn't recognize it, not from her college years, not from our social circle. A complete stranger. The tone of their messages sent a chill down my spine, their flirtatious nature undeniable. Phrases like, "Can't wait to see you tonight," sliced through my heart like a blade. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the exchanges, each message another dagger confirming the worst. By 3:30 a.m., I was still sitting there, frozen in disbelief, my mind spiraling with the painful realization that the woman I had trusted implicitly might be hiding a secret life. Then, I heard the soft click of her heels against the hardwood floor. She was home. She moved carefully, making an effort to be silent, as though she were hoping to slip into bed unnoticed. But I was already waiting. She entered the living room and stopped abruptly when she saw me. Her eyes widened in surprise before she quickly masked it, slipping into a casual demeanor. "You're still up?" she asked lightly, though there was a nervous edge to her voice. "How was the reunion?" I asked, my voice calm, too calm. A pause, just a fraction of a second too long. "It was nice," she replied, avoiding my gaze as she busied herself with removing her shoes. "Who showed up?" I pressed, keeping my tone deliberately light, masking the turmoil beneath. She answered too quickly, almost rehearsed. "Just some old friends. You wouldn't know them." Her words were hollow, and the name Daniel echoed in my mind like a drumbeat. I knew she was lying. But I said nothing. Not yet. Over the following days, I maintained an air of normalcy, all while methodically uncovering the truth. I combed through her social media, her digital footprint, anything that could reveal the depth of her deception. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. What had started as innocent conversations had gradually evolved into something far more intimate. Then, the final blow, a photograph. Avery and Daniel, standing too close for comfort at a party. His arm rested possessively around her waist, her head tilted toward him in a way that spoke of familiarity, of closeness, of something far more than friendship. Still, I did not confront her. I needed undeniable proof. Cold, hard evidence. So I watched. I observed. I installed covert cameras around the house, monitored her calls, tracked her every interaction with Daniel. Every secret meeting, every whispered conversation, every text exchanged when she thought I wasn't looking, I caught it all. Then, the opportunity presented itself. One afternoon, she casually mentioned meeting a friend for coffee. I knew better. She was meeting him. It was time. I had compiled everything, screenshots of messages, recordings, photos, and video footage, into a single damning file. But I didn't just keep it for myself. I uploaded it anonymously to a popular social media platform, framing it as a cautionary tale of betrayal. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. That evening, as Avery walked through the front door, her phone buzzed incessantly. Confusion flickered across her face as she glanced at the notifications, but as she scrolled, the color drained from her cheeks. Panic overtook her features as the weight of what had happened sank in. Her hands trembled, her breathing quickened, and for the first time, I saw true fear in her eyes. I stood silently in the doorway, watching as realization dawned. Her betrayal was no longer a secret whispered in the dark. The entire world now knew. The weight of the moment settled over her like a crushing wave, stealing the color from her face as she unlocked her phone with trembling fingers. Her eyes darted across the avalanche of messages flooding her screen, each notification another piece of her carefully constructed world crumbling beneath her. A sharp inhale caught in her throat as she struggled to find her voice. "What is this?" she whispered, her tone barely audible, thick with disbelief and rising panic. She looked up at me, searching for an answer, for a lifeline, but I gave her none. The silence between us stretched taut, more damning than any words I could offer. Her knees buckled slightly, her body sagging as though the realization of her betrayal had physically weakened her. She swayed under the weight of it, but I remained still, unmoved. The bitterness I had carried for the past few days hardened into an unyielding resolve. "Did you do this?" she finally asked, her voice quivering, the question hanging heavy between us. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. My silence told her everything. Her tear-streaked face mirrored the regret that had come far too late. Whatever damage she had done was beyond repair, and now, faced with the consequences, she could do nothing but drown in them. "For what?" I finally asked, my voice steady, deliberate. "A brief, selfish indulgence? Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" She choked on her response, her breath hitching as she shook her head, desperately clinging to the pieces of a lie that had already shattered. "I'm sorry," she sobbed, her voice raw. "I never meant for it to get this far. Please, forgive me. I love you." The words were ridiculous. Empty. She had already destroyed everything we had built, reduced years of trust and devotion to nothing more than a fleeting moment of desire. Now she wanted forgiveness. Love. The very idea was laughable. "I don't want your apologies," I said, my tone cutting through her pleas like a blade. Her weeping turned frenzied as she dropped to her knees, grasping at my legs, desperate to hold on to something, anything, that might keep her from losing me entirely. "Please," she begged, her sobs pouring out in torrents, each one more frantic than the last. But it was too late. The tension in the room was punctuated by the relentless buzzing of her phone, the endless flood of notifications that wouldn't stop. Hands shaking, she picked it up again, scrolling through the barrage of comments that had overtaken her social media. Liar. Cheater. Destroyer of trust. The words were everywhere, each one stripping away the flawless image she had so meticulously maintained. The truth was now laid bare for all to see. "Please, take it down," she whimpered, her voice trembling. "I'll do anything. Just please." I shook my head slowly, feeling a cold satisfaction settle in my chest. "The video stays," I said, my voice unwavering. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched the phone to her chest, her sobs breaking into weak, irregular breaths. She had thought she could deceive me. She had believed she could walk away unscathed, that her betrayal would remain hidden in the shadows. But now, with the world watching, there was no undoing what she had done. Without another word, I turned away. There was nothing left to say, no confrontation that could fix what had been irreparably broken. As I walked toward the bedroom, her cries followed me, echoing through the walls of the home we had once built together. "Where are you going?" she called after me, desperation piercing through her voice. I didn't answer. In the silence that followed, I packed my bags. The sound of the zipper closing was final, absolute. Beyond redemption, beyond repair, our story had reached its inevitable end. I never looked back. Not because I felt nothing, but because I had given her everything, and she had thrown it away. As I stepped out of the house, her sobs grew softer, fading into the distance. The silence between us now spoke louder than any words ever could, final, irrevocable. In the days that followed, my phone overflowed with messages, apologies, explanations, desperate pleas for another chance. I never replied. And as for Daniel, he vanished. Erased his presence from the digital world as if that could somehow undo the damage he had helped cause. But it was too late for that, too. He had walked into my life thinking he could take something that wasn't his and leave unscathed. He was wrong. Avery and Daniel were left to deal with the wreckage of their own making, their reputations in ruins. And me? I moved on. The pain remained, but so did my strength. I had taken back control of my life. My revenge, though harsh, had given me the one thing I needed most, closure. The silence between Avery and me became the last punctuation in our story.